Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the Daily Market Insight for Monday, the 22nd of May. All right, now as we start the week, still the US debt ceiling is the major talking point, right? And it's got the dollar on the front foot. You can see here across the currencies, the dollar is basically going up against everything. Dollar CAD being the odd one out. It's sort of being constrained there by oil. Euro lower, sterling lower, Aussie lower, and the Kiwi. I've just shrunk this up a bit to give you a bit more insight, but it came off quite hard. But we do have Kiwi's got some important data coming out this week. The Kiwi rate announcement by the RBNZ. Now, just have a look at some of these moves here. They are somewhat getting stale, right? Looks like definitely sterling and Aussie have moved as far as they like. I want to see the next round of data, but you know what? The 1st of June, I think, is the deadline for that US debt to be paid off or raise the ceiling so they can just roll the debt down the road, kick that can down the road. So we may have to sort of wait and see. And we're coming into the last week of the month, right? Which is there's generally less key data coming out. So if I just come across here to have a look at the what's going on in the general instruments. Start the week, US equity futures, well, they're down, but we're not seeing a clear risk on, risk off day, right? Otherwise, we'd see Euro, Sterling, Aussie, Kiwi lower and the dollar higher, but we're not seeing that, okay? So just be aware, the markets, I think it's almost a little bit exhausted around this, all the US, talk about, the debt situation, blah, blah, blah. It's sort of like boring, and the traders in the institutions will switch off, right? They'll just go, okay, we'll just wait. When is this thing going to be done? But let's not lose sight of what's happening this week. Now, it's a slow start, right? And this is where the news articles and news services will be banging out, all the articles around the, what Biden and McCarthy are discussing around working out a deal. But you come down here through the data, there's bits and pieces, but it's not really until Wednesday that we really kick things off, right? So there's some more US home data, but the RBNZ rate decision, okay, that's going to be obviously important for the Kiwi and Kiwi crosses. And then you switch straight over into sterling. Okay, you got the inflation numbers there, definitely important. Have a look at the ECB non-monetary policy meeting, right? They have a meeting, they tell you what's going on, what they're thinking. That can sometimes kick things into gear. Then you come back into the IFO business numbers, right? So that could really spark some action there on the euro. So Wednesday is when things kick off, and you need to plan that into your trade plan, right? If you start going into the week going, okay, I'm just going to start trading early on, well, you may have some technical setups to work with, but direction may be a little bit tricky to work out. Thursday, the FOMC minutes, German GfK consumer confidence numbers. We're seeing pretty good shifts in momentum around the consumer confidence numbers, or confidence sentiment, depending on the country where they're coming from. But that's where we are seeing things. The weekly jobless claims, well, always worth a bit of a bo peep. The pending home sales, retail sales out of Australia, and then really you come into the last part of the week, it's sterling is going to be very active because you got lots of, you got the retail sales numbers, and then you got the PCE price index, durable goods out of the US, personal income there as well, and spending. So Fridays, you know what, the pick of the bunch, because we do have a lot of US numbers. But this is the, and you've also got the final numbers there of the Michigan consumer sentiment numbers. You know what, the prelim numbers to me are the best ones, but you could see some activity here. Now, just plan the week, last week of the month. Now, next Monday is, I think it's Memorial Day, right? So big US holiday. And then we're getting closer to the crunch with regards whether the US decides to raise the debt ceiling and just kick that debt down the road. We'll see how that works out. My take is they will let it go past the time. They'll end up paying it or raising the ceiling, but probably a week or two later. Hopefully it doesn't work like that, because if it does, this is just going to drag out, and you don't want it sort of interfering with the numbers that are coming out the following week, right? The start of the month. We get a lot of big banging numbers there, and that's we don't want to be wasting those opportunities around what we've got at the moment. So to me, you just got to really tune in as into what's happening technically. Okay, where are the major influences? on the global markets here, the equity markets, well, they've bounced back quite well. And there's a lot of talk about the AI that's going around. Okay, all the companies with the new AI, GPT, all those various AI influencers saying how productive it's going to make business. But I tell you what they're not focusing on is how many jobs it's going to take out of the market. And that's probably going to be quite epic. So, of course, the financial markets being as fickle as they are, they will factor in the positive side of things. And the the unemployment side of it, well, that's for someone else to consider. But gold, one of the key things here I keep looking at is gold, right? The safe haven trade around the US. What we were talking about a week or so ago was the regional banking issue and maybe the collapse of the regional banks in the US. It hasn't actually rolled out that way. I think the US debt ceiling talks have covered up or masked the news at the moment. We'll probably come back to that once the debt issue is taken care of. But at the moment, there's not a really big risk safe haven appetite I can see at the moment. Oil has stabilized around 70, 72 bucks. And that's where that is. Cryptos, well, Bitcoin stabilized around 26,000 there as well. And that's where we are. Okay. Dollar index obviously up and euro down. So let's just hold on. My sort of strategy for this week is to really wait. I'll come back to the screens each day and have a look what's going on. But I need something tangible to tell me where these instruments are going. I still don't believe the dollar should be up here unless we've got some cataclysmic event coming up, which I know a lot of doomsday sayers out there are sort of calling this the debt situation in the US, but I think otherwise. So I could see a lot of potential here, Euro, Sterling, Aussie, Kiwi higher. But you know what? We need the news to come out and get rid of all this stale news that's in the market. It's actually quite frustrating. And I'm sure if you're like me, you'll be, you get sick to death of hearing what politicians are going to do and what they've got to say. Okay, just get on with it, right? Because at the moment, it's causing a bit of a stalemate in the financial markets. And that to me is very frustrating because we don't get any flow with the data, the fundamentals. Keep an eye on those equity markets. I mean, there's a lot of movement out of everything else without, having hugely clear direction. But the currencies at the moment, I'd just be a bit cautious where things are going. Commodities, well, they're still getting belted a bit. So maybe there's some action there on the commodities. And don't forget, have a look through the various instruments here, particularly when it comes to looking at the currency relative strength or US dollar relative strength, this template here. Have a look down through here. There's a few good instruments to trade, some that you may not be familiar with. In the last week of the month, it's a good idea to start exploring technically how well do these instruments trade. Okay, I can tell you I don't trade many of them, but I will have a look. If there's nothing else to do, instead of going into the markets and just start trading, some of these instruments with no clear fundamentals, I'll come over here and start looking at the technical aspect of a lot of these various instruments, especially against the dollar, see which ones are performing well, which ones aren't, and see how well they trade technically. Because I tell you what, you do a bit of homework here, a lot of these instruments run very well, and you might find some really good trending instruments. So when the US situation does turn around, you may have some more valuable instruments to trade. Okay, just a little bit of a tidbit there to finish on. But that's it for me, guys. There's not much else we can do except have a good look through the calendar. The US data, is it going to be important? Well, maybe later in the week, but not early doors, especially whilst this debt situation continues. The RBNZ is going to be very interesting. Okay, on Wednesday, there is retail sales here before it. And if I just actually come back up here and just go back to the lower tier data, we'll see where that is. So you're going to have a few chances here. CAD PPI, yeah, maybe. Not huge, but here's that retail sales figures leading into the RBNZ. Then you've got all this UK data to mull over. Now that's worth having a look at. Sterling this week, a lot of data, lots going on. It may be the sterling crosses that really kick into gear. Anyway, that's all I can give you at this stage, guys. All the best. Any updates, I'll send them through. Cheerio.